All right. Hey, everyone. Tonya Wells here. And today, as I was getting ready for work, I was thinking about attachments. And I posed the question that are we really aware of what we're attached to? And are we aware of how much pain we inflict upon ourselves because we are attached to things? Can we talk about that a few minutes? Sometimes attachments can be very subtle. Sometimes they're really strong and tense and tight, and we begin to recognize the intensity of the frustration or pain that we have around them. We could probably talk for quite a while about attachments, like an hour easily. I think I could sit here and just disclose I, examples and ideas, but let's talk about a few. And I jotted down a few this morning when I was getting ready. And I think you'll be able to identify with some of these. And if this isn't for you, maybe it's for your friend. Maybe it's for that family member. Maybe not so much for you to correct them or tell them, but maybe this will really help you to see where their fears are and what they're really holding on to. Something I think a lot of us have experienced is this. Can we be attached to unforgiveness? Can we be attached to resentment? And when we do not really feel pain around that, we're going to talk about the solution here in a minute. How about the need to be right? Have you ever been attached to the need to be right? To get that last word in, because there's some level of, I started to say identity, maybe not identity, but there's some level of, I just need to prove my point. I need for you to understand, and I need to be right. Sometimes can we get attached to that? Yes, we can. Have you ever been attached to a person? I'll raise two hands on that one. This was a very heavy addiction for me. I can't remember exactly what year. I want to say I was around the age of 40, 41, when I finally broke free of this. But my addiction to people, I needed other people. I needed to be attached to how they saw me. I felt like I needed them to have some sense of identity and things like that. So people can be an attachment. And then when they move, what happens? Or they change, or we think that they're thinking something about us that they're really not, or maybe they are. We fall apart. That should indicate to us that there's a level of unhealthy attachment. How about we talked about people? What about places and things? Sometimes we can get attached to personal belongings. Sometimes we can get attached to certain places, and that can create pain as well. Let's say, for example, you have to, every time you go to a certain place, it reminds you of something very painful because that got anchored in somewhere in our history, in our conditioning, in our life experiences. And so sometimes places can be attachments to pain. How about that kind of segues into an unpleasant memory? That can be an attachment. What about attachments to a victim mentality? That feeling of helplessness, and that there's some reason and there's some kind of benefit that we get from being attached to our story. Even if it's a painful story, there's a part of us. Now, I started to say we love telling it over and over again. And you say, Tonya, I don't love that. It is so painful. But there's some kind of payoff for you that you enjoy telling it over and over again. And we're going to take a look. What might that be? If it's creating pain, we want to take a look at the attachment. Sometimes we get attached to living in our past. We just identify ourselves from where we've been. And it makes it almost, I won't say impossible, but it makes it really difficult to begin to build a hopeful future because we are so attached to our past, to our limitations, to how we've been up to this point. And we think that's just who I'm going to be, or that's just who I am. Sometimes we get attached to food and some kind of drink. I am attached to some good morning coffee. But sometimes, seriously, we can get attached to food, can't we? To where we walk by something and we feel like we have no self-discipline whatsoever because there's becoming an attachment to that. Or, oh my goodness, if somebody takes this away. I'm going to hit on one more, and that is an attachment to noise. Always have to have something on. I always have to have something. I'm listening to something or have to have the TV on because we are so afraid of quiet and silence because we do not like what we hear inside of us. We do not like our thoughts. We do not like those heart conversations that we're hearing, and we can become attached to noise to help drown that out. But does that really make us free? So hopefully at this point in our talk right now is that we're raising some awareness to what we might be engaging in that brings attachment or pain because of attachment. And how do we even begin? Let's say we have a desire, and that desire is to let go of self-inflicting pain. Things is like, oh my goodness, Tonya, I did not realize that I am bringing this on myself. How can we begin to let go of that? And the first step is always going to be the first step is we need to become aware of what we're attached to. So hopefully some of those things might start piquing or raising your awareness to that, to pay attention. But when we become aware of what we are attached to, that is a really powerful position if you will allow it to be. And it's powerful because we are able to step back and be an observer now. Now we are not totally immersed in the thought. Now we are not totally immersed in the attachment because we're feeling the frustration or we're feeling the pain. And when we step back and say, whoa, wait a minute, what am I attached to here? Now we can begin to observe and become aware of what that might be. Who is holding on to this attachment? Nobody else is doing this but us. And that's a powerful position too. When you realize that nobody is making you be attached to something of your past or a person, a place or thing or food or certain thoughts, don't allow this to be a shameful thing. Allow this to be an empowering thing. So our first step was we become aware of it. And then it's, oh my goodness, okay, who's holding on to this? I am in my heart, in my thoughts. The more I keep rehearsing this, the more I'm attaching myself to it. Sometimes I know some of our attachments are so deeply rooted. Sometimes it might be the awareness alone that will help us to let go. That's always going to be the key, right? We become aware and we're in a position of choice to let go. If it's deeply rooted, it may take several letting go. It may take, that wasn't even a proper phrase, was it? It may take several times where we begin to let that go so it can begin to die off. This really is a lot more than what we're going to be able to cover right now. But one of the things that I was also reminded of this morning is something that my mom does so well with me, and she introduced me to this, and I have used it over and over again, is when sometimes we can be attached to always getting a yes and feeling if I ask for something, I have to get a yes. Because if I don't get a yes, I don't know what I'm going to do because I need this. And oftentimes we will either not ask because we're afraid to get a no, or we will ask and then we'll get really upset if we get a no, because both ways we're attached to the outcome. So I'd like to leave us with this as we think about relating with other people. And she'll say to me, when she's getting ready to ask me something, she'll say, Tonya, she said, now, it doesn't matter to me what the answer is. And then she will ask her question. That does a couple of things. One, it really lowers the defenses because, one, somebody is not being demanding of you. And they're also not asking from a place of neediness. Like you can feel like, oh my goodness, they really need for me to do this. But from a place of sincerity, to say, it doesn't matter to me what the answer is. When we can do that and not be attached to the outcome and know that regardless of what they say, we're going to be okay. And if the solution doesn't come through them, then there'll be another provision. This is freedom, my friend. This is true freedom. And so this is a little tool we can do and exercise we can do with others. And it helps our heart get freed up as well. So today we talked about actually two different ways of observing attachments and how they might be bringing pain upon our lives, frustration upon our lives. And the more we let go and trust that whatever we feel like we need in the moment will be provided, that it may not come through the way that we initially thought, we can let people off the hook. And we can begin to feel a little bit more empowered about how we go about our day. And then when we bring that into others, you talk about freedom, people feel like they have the freedom to choose. They feel like they have the freedom to choose yes or no. Now, when you say it's okay, whatever the answer is, practice being sincere with that. You'll know. You will know if you're not sincere. And how will you know that? Because you'll get irritated if they say no. You'll try to manipulate the outcome if they say no. If you're attached to them saying yes, it will be obvious. That was my thought for today. And I always want to be both an encouragement and admonish us to come up a little bit higher in how we think, how we feel, how we behave, how we interact with one another. And hopefully this is something that raised your awareness to that. If something really stood out to you as it relates to this video and you actually watched it all the way through, leave me a comment below. I would love to hear your heart or your thoughts around this, or maybe your struggle with attachment. Let me know. All right, everyone. It is a winter wonderland here today. Very different from a couple of days ago. So I am getting ready to help my mom with some things, but I will catch you later. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I will see you next time. Bye.